The president of the National Bank of Poland met with a group of 23 students from the Stanford Graduate School of Business on the 28th of March.
One big difference between the central banks in continental Europe and the Fed is that we are forbidden to monetize public debt, to finance the public sector borrowings.
The meeting, which took place at the headquarters of the National Bank of Poland in Warsaw, is part of a Stanford University program called Global Study Trips.
Well, the overall aim of the trips is to increase our students' exposure to areas of the world, particularly areas of the world that they don't have familiarity with beforehand, because they may be future investment opportunities, future career opportunities, or just people they'll be interacting with as part of a globalized world economy.
This leg of the Stanford Global Study Trips program was centered on giving students a chance to compare the transformation processes that Poland and Ukraine have undergone over the last 20 years.
The purpose of this trip specifically is to look at the economic development and compare and contrast Poland and Ukraine, and particularly their development over the last 20 years, the evolution coming from communism and their position in the world now and where they hope to move forward.
One of the takeaways from the session was a more in-depth picture of the state of the economy in Poland.
Polish economy is in pretty good shape compared to the rest of Europe. It was the only country that avoided recession during the last 3 years of turbulence. And still the economy is doing comparatively well. We didn't see any slowdown last year, quarter by quarter. We expect some slowdown, but not much.
During the question and answer session, Professor Belka elaborated his perspective on the macro trends affecting the current financial crisis and talked about Poland's role within the European Union.
This meeting, which was at a very senior level with Professor Belka, was extremely helpful in understanding, the position of Poland and how it's plugged into the European network, and his kind of macro perspective on Europe, on the crisis, on where things are going, was extremely helpful for people especially from the US, who might be less knowledgeable about the macro trends. I think this really let us understand what are the directions that we're going to, and how Polish policy is being shaped around that.
Another takeaway was a more thorough appreciation of the role stable institutions play in keeping a country's transformation process on track.
Yes, I think one of the most compelling things that's come out is the importance of institutions, and particularly the judicial system, but laws and regulations. When you're facing the unexpected and so much uncertainty in the world, what it comes down to is the strength of the institutions to respond and the predictability of the rules-based society and how things will evolve. I think for companies and leaders alike, an understanding of how everyone is playing and being able to predict, although we recognize that you can't predict the future, having that level of understanding helps.
What aspect of Poland's transformation stands out most prominently for you?
Well, I think it's the observable signs of a flourishing economy. And, I know that, it's always hard to meet people's expectations as to how well people want things to go quickly. But, an economy growing steadily at a moderate pace is actually a huge accomplishment. And, there's not that many places that manage to pull this off.
In the 22 years the Study Trips program has been in existence, Stanford students have collectively made around 140 trips to more than 55 states worldwide.